Good morning, everyone. My name is Kirti, and I'm a final year student of chemical engineering from NIT Jalandhar. The topic of my presentation is hydrotreating. It is being submitted to Dr. Shashikant Yadav under the subject of hydrocarbon engineering. So, these are the contents. First of all, I will discuss the types of hydroprocessing because hydrotreating is nothing but a hydroprocessing unit. So, and why do we use hydroprocessing? Its uses and its advantages. Then, types of hydroprocessing, the reaction in hydroprocessing, and then we'll come on to the hydrotreating, which is the major part of this presentation. We'll see the feed, the product, the catalyst, the operating conditions, flow sheet, and the process description. Then we will see the difference between hydrotreating and hydrocracking, and then there's bibliography. So, what is hydroprocessing? Hydroprocessing is a catalytic process where hydrogen reacts with hydrocarbons. Number one, to remove the poisons for catalysts used in the subsequent processing, which is also called hydrotreating. So, in hydrotreating, we remove the poisons for the catalyst. Number two, to remove the sulfur. So, we all know that sulfur nowadays nowadays government norms are there like BS6 uh, due to which we have to reduce the sulfur content, the emission contents from a particular vehicle. So there are DHDS and DHDT units to reduce the sulfur content. Number three, to break the bigger hydrocarbon molecules into the smaller hydrocarbon molecules and thereby producing more values. So this is called hydrocracking, the bigger molecules when break into the smaller ones. So why do we have to use hydroprocessing? So first of all, it will improve the quality of the product by removing various contaminants like sulfur, nitrogen, and oxygen with the help of hydrogen. So hydrogen, when reacts with these, forms H2S, NH3, and H2O, which can be further removed, and it improves the quality. Number two, it saturates olefins and aromatics. So when we saturate olefins and aromatics, it's just going to make the fuel lighter and it's going to increase the octane content of the fuel. And number three, it cracks bigger hydrocarbon molecules into more valuable smaller molecules, thereby again increasing the quality of the fuel. Then these are the reactions that occur in a hydroprocessing unit. First of all, we see the hydro desulfurization reactions here. So in these molecules, we can see there is sulfur. So these components are present inside the crude oil, and we are removing the sulfur present inside these components by the use of hydrogen. So hydrogen, when react with these compounds, it takes S out of the compound and it forms H2S. So we get the sulfur free compound and the H2S gas. So it can be removed. Then there is HDN reactions. So we can simply remove nitrogen by the addition of hydrogen. So here it reduces the aromaticity of this compound and NH3 is formed, which can be further eliminated. And we get a nitrogen free compound. The third type of reaction is olefin saturation reaction. So here we are given an olefin which is present inside the crude oil and we are reacting it with hydrogen and hence the saturation is being done. Double bond has been removed. So these kinds of reaction also occur in the hydroprocessing. Number 4 is the aromatic saturation reaction. So these are the aromatic compounds and when we add hydrogen to them, the aromaticity is lost. So these are not harmful now because we know that aromatics like benzene they are very carcinogenic. So we have to remove them. Now we are coming on to the main topic, which is hydrotreating. So it's mainly used for in India. It is mainly used for the sulfur reduction in diesel, which is also being done by the DHDT unit, that is dehydro desulfurization unit. Sulfur in diesel. So sulfur compounds, they naturally occur in the crude oil. We all know that. So it is an impurity that we have to remove because it is pollution causing and it contributes significantly to the particulate matter in the exhaust emissions. Sulfates are formed in the exhaust streams and it leads to corrosion and even the wear of engine systems, the system in which we are using that fuel. So it corrodes that engine and wear occurs. So these are the trends of sulfur emission in India. In we can see that in 1995 there was no such norm. It all began in the like past 2 decades. After 2005, India first of all applied the BS2 nationwide, which said that there should not be more than 500 ppm of sulfur emission. As the time passed, BS2 got converted to BS3, then BS4, and India skipped BS5 stage and it directly came to the BS6 stage, which said that there should not be more than 10 ppm emission of sulfur for a particular in petrols or diesels. So now it is nationwide employed, and the unit that helped in doing so was the hydrotreater unit, the DHDS unit. So we can see this is the general outlay of a refinery. This is the crude oil which is being put into desalter, and this is atmospheric distillation unit, and it is a vacuum distillation unit. So we can see that hydroprocessing and hydrotreating units are present here, here, and somewhere here. So we can see that the feed to the hydrotreating unit is coming from the lower distillates of atmospheric distillation column, and it is coming from the vacuum distillation columns as well after the deasphalting. Apart from this, there is also a naphtha hydrotreating unit which is treating naphtha from the atmospheric distillation column. And in the later process, we can see hydrocracker present, and there is also a distillate hydrotreating. So the name depends on the kind of feed we are putting inside it. If we are providing it the light vacuum gas oils, then it may also be called as light vacuum gas oil hydrotreater. If we are providing naphtha as a feed, then we call it as naphtha hydrotreater. So it depends upon the type of feed we are sending inside it. So let's move on to the feeds, products, catalyst, and the operating conditions for a hydrotreater. So as we already saw that the feed is coming from the atmospheric distillation column as well as vacuum distillation column. So feed can be naphtha, it can be kerosene, it can be light gas oils, heavy gas oils from our crude distillation unit, and it can be light vacuum gas oil or heavy vacuum gas oil from vacuum distillation unit. Mainly the feed is vacuum gas oils, and the product, we know that we are removing sulfur, so the product is desulfurized naphtha, uh, and it further goes to the C4 splitter. That is a C4 splitter. uh, you might be able to see it here. Like there are various splitters set up. So after desulfurization, they goes to the butane separator. So next product is desulfurized gas oil. This is the main product, and it goes to the kerosene separator. And further, kerosene separator, or we can say the aviation fuel oil separator. Then some other products are light gas oils, and in some of the cases, diesel is the main product. As I already said, the DHDS, when we use DHDS, diesel is the main product from which we have removed sulfur. Because for example, in Panipat refinery, where I have done my internship, there they have a DHDS unit, And we all know that Panipat refinery supplies fuels the diesel to Punjab and Haryana, and diesel is the main product there. So according to government norms, they had to decrease the sulfur amount according to BS6 standards, and DSDS unit played a very major role in this. So now if we see kerosene hydrotreater, we will find that there is no lighter product is formed in the hydrotreating operation. So only kerosene is formed and it further goes to the kerosene blending unit. Now the operating conditions are such that they vary, like the name varies, the operating conditions too vary with the type of feed we are entering inside it. So temperature is from 280 to 240, 425 degrees Celsius, and the pressure here is 200 to 800 psig. Catalyst, when we are targeting the sulfur removal, then our catalyst will be cobalt and molybdenum. And if we are targeting nitrogen removal as our major removal, nitrogen removal is main, then we are going to use nickel and molybdenum as our catalyst. So this is the flow sheet of a hydrotreater, like how our feed enters into the system, and this is a heat exchanger where we mix hydrogen with the fresh feed. Hydrogen is coming from recycle, and after the feed becomes hot, it is sent to a high pressure separator, because we here have mixture of liquid and vapor. In high pressure separator, vaporization occur, flash vaporization occur, and the liquid and the gas separates out, and the liquid then enters a low pressure separator. Liquid now has our liquid feed, which is now sulfur free, and some amount of hydrogen is here. So hydrogen rich gas is separated in the low pressure separator, and the products are further sent to the fractionation column for further cuts. When here we have H2S gas, it goes out towards the absorber, and here we have to separate sulfur from H2S. So here ammonia technology is used. Uh, Lean amine is sent, and this is an acid, and we have amine is a base, and H2S is an acid. So acid base reaction takes place and a salt is formed. Rich amine leaves the absorber, and here we have H2 pure H2 in the gaseous form, and it goes out to the compressor, and it compresses the H2, and H2 in liquid form goes back towards the recycled H2 goes back towards the feed. So in this way hydrotreater works. So, various factors that affect DHDT operation are catalyst, first of all, then is the reactor volume, reactant internals, reaction kinetics and thermodynamics, H2 partial pressure effect, H2S partial pressure effect, reaction temperature and constraints, of course, and the H2 consumption. So, if we are given a feed and we have to reduce the sulfur content, we can employ both, any of these, hydrotreating and hydrocracking. Both has the same function, but when to use hydrotreating and when to use hydrocracking, it totally depends upon the kind of product that we want. If we want, petrol as our main product, then we have to use hydrotreating, because it enriches the product in the octane number. Whereas in hydrocracking, diesel is our main product because it increases the decade number, which is good for diesel. So let us look into the procedures again. Hydrotreating, it removes heteroatoms and saturates the carbon-carbon bond. It saturates the carbon-carbon bond, but in case of hydrocracking, it breaks the carbon-carbon bonds, which results in the reduction of the molecular weight. In hydrotreating, minimal cracking occurs and the conversion is 10 to 20%, which is very less when compared to cracking because it converts 50% plus product into some other form. Products are suitable for further processing or final blending, such as reforming, catalytic cracking, and hydrocracking. So these are not final products. They go back into the blending sections. But hydrocracking, it produces diesel which is almost free from sulfur, and it can be directly used inside the vehicles. So this was the major difference between hydrotreating and hydrocracking. So these are some of the resources that I used in this project. That's all from my side. Thank you.